The air smelled like rust and smoke. Lights flickered above the metal ceiling, casting strange shadows across the crowded alien market. People from different worlds walked between cages and stalls, speaking in harsh voices. The place was loud, dirty, and dangerous. Jocks moved slowly, his face hidden under a brown hood. He kept his eyes low, acting like just another buyer. His boots clicked softly on the steel floor as he passed rows of cages. Inside them were creatures with sharp teeth, glowing eyes, and broken spirits. He had seen many slave markets before, but something about this one felt worse. A tall alien, with green skin and 4 arms, walked beside him, trying to sell strong muscle, fast reflexes. Loyal, if trained, the seller hissed. Showing a blue-scaled creature, Jocks shook his head, pretending not to be impressed. He wasn't here to buy anything. He was here to find out where the chain lords were hiding their newest stock. Then he saw her. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. In the last cage on the far side of the hall, away from the others, was a girl. Not an alien. Not a creature, but a human. She was sitting on the floor, arms wrapped around her knees. Her skin was marked with bruises, her dark hair messy and tangled. A metal collar glowed around her neck, connected to the bars with a thick chain. Jocks stopped without meaning to. Something cold moved in his chest. He stepped closer, trying not to draw attention. She didn't look up, but then she did. Her eyes were tired but sharp, deep brown, and full of something strange. Not fear, not pain, but a kind of quiet fire. She stared at him like she already knew him. Jocks felt the air leave his lungs. For a moment, the noise around him faded. Then, she opened her mouth and spoke. Soft, clear, and in perfect Earth English. "Take me home," she said. The words hit him like a pulse. He blinked, frozen in place. She wasn't supposed to be here. Humans weren't sold like this. Not anymore. There were laws, protections, codes. This girl was impossible. "Hey!" barked a rough voice behind him. A guard in heavy armor stepped up, frowning. "Buy or move." The guard growled, gripping his stun stick. Jocks raised his hands and stepped back, nodding, just looking. He said calmly and turned away, but inside his mind was racing. Who was she? How did she get here? How was she even alive? He left the cage row slowly, pretending to browse other stalls, when the guard turned his back. Jocks reached into his pocket and took out a small, round device. He pressed it between his fingers, activating the tracker. Then, in one smooth motion, he dropped it near the girl's cage. Letting it roll under the shadows, it would stay active for 48 hours, long enough, back on his ship. The Stariner Jocks sat in silence. He replayed the words in his head. "Take me home, not help me." "Not save me," she said, "home." Like she knew what that meant. He pulled up the system logs, checking missing persons. No match. He scanned the records of all known human settlements within 200 light years. Still nothing. She couldn't be from Earth. Earth was sealed, cut off from this region after the border wars. Maybe she was born in secret, sold in silence, passed through black markets. But then, how did she speak like that? How did she find him with her eyes? He leaned back, fingers tapping the table. A name came back from the past, a name he hadn't said in years. Lysa, his sister. She went missing 10 years ago, when their outpost was attacked. Could it be? No, Lysa would be older now, stronger, but the eyes. They were the same. Jocks stood up and walked to the window. Stars blinked outside. Silent and cold. He clenched his jaw. Whoever she was, human or hybrid, clone or lost girl, no one deserved to be caged like that. Not her. He looked down at the tracker screen. Her signal was still there. Blinking softly, she was still alive, still waiting. He had 48 hours to do something. That would be enough. It had to be enough. He turned back to his gear locker and started loading. His weapons. This time, he wouldn't just be looking. This time, he was going to bring someone home. Asterisk, the girl was dreaming. In her dream, she was floating. Not in space, but in water. Warm, quiet water, where no voices screamed and no chains. Pulled, her eyes opened slowly, and for a second she thought she saw Earth, blue sky, green fields. Soft hands reaching out to her. "Come home, Lisa," they whispered. But then came the electric sting. The collar around her neck buzzed, shocking her awake. She gasped, her body jerking from the pain. And the cold air of the cage reminded her. She was still here, far above her, across the city of steel and smog. Jocks was already moving. He had changed into a dark coat, weapons hidden under the fabric. His ship's AI, Rhea, spoke softly in his earpiece. "Tracking signal is stable. 20 hours remaining." Jocks nodded, his eyes focused. He wasn't just hunting now, he was remembering. The voice, the eyes, the name she hadn't said, but somehow screamed. He whispered to himself, she wasn't supposed to exist. Years ago, there was a rumor. A top-secret program by Earth's fading government, human-alien hybrids. Made in labs, raised in silence, designed for war. But something went wrong. The project disappeared. Files erased. Test subjects lost. Jocks had heard stories from soldiers. One said they saw a child with glowing eyes. Another claimed a girl walked through fire and didn't burn. Nobody believed them. But now, after yesterday, Jocks wasn't sure anymore. Rhea interrupted his thoughts. Local records accessed. Unauthorized purchase logs detected. Jocks leaned closer to the screen. A hacked document showed her file. ID, Asset X93 name. Redacted race, human variant use, pleasure, and psychological. Conditioning control level. Medium transfer location. Gate 17. Outbound dock time. 11 hours from Jocks read the words twice. His stomach twisted. Pleasure and conditioning, he muttered. She's being trained like a machine, he slammed. His fist on the desk. No one did this to a real human, unless... She wasn't fully human, but Jocks didn't care. She had spoken like one. Looked at him like one. Felt like someone he had known his whole life. He checked his gear, 2 stun rifles. 1 pulse grenade, hacking spike, smoke bombs, and a fake ID. Chip, he would go in quiet alone. Hours later, he stood outside the slave transport bay. Rain fell from the top vents, hissing on the hot metal ground. Drones buzzed overhead. Scanning for threats, Jocks slipped past them. Using the shadows. Inside, he saw rows of glass pods. Each one holding a body. Most were empty. Some had sleeping aliens. Then, at the end of the row, he saw her. She was inside a stasis pod, eyes closed, body floating in blue light. Her hair waved gently. Like in her dream, Jocks moved closer, pulling out the hacking spike, just as he reached the control panel. A voice echoed through the chamber. "You're not supposed to be here." Jocks turned fast, gun raised. A tall figure stepped from the shadows, another human, wearing a black uniform. But something was wrong. His skin was too smooth, his eyes too still. "Who are you?" Jocks asked. The man smiled. "She's not yours," he said calmly. "She belongs to the program." Jocks fired, the stun shot hitting the man's chest. He dropped instantly, sparks crackling from under his skin. A cyborg part machine, part puppet. Jocks rushed back to the pod and slammed the spike into the panel. Alarms began to beep. Red lights flashing, the pod hissed open, steam pouring out. Lisa's eyes fluttered. She looked up at him, confused but calm. "You came back," she whispered. Jocks reached for her hand, pulling her out. "I said I would," he replied, behind them. Heavy doors started to open. Guards would be there. In seconds, Jocks threw a smoke bomb and guided her through the chaos. Gunfire echoed, but he kept moving. Back on the Stariner, the ship lifted off just in time. Rhea sealed the hatch. Lysa sat quietly in the corner. Shivering but awake, Jox looked at her closely. "Who are you? Really?" he asked. She looked down at her hands, then back at him. "I don't know," she said. "But I remember your voice." Jox stared, speechless. Outside, the stars waited, and deep inside him, something began to hope. *, the door was locked. Blood was on the floor, smoke filled the air. And somewhere behind it all, a girl was screaming. 6 hours earlier, Jox was laughing, not because he was happy, but because the truth was finally louder than the lies. She wasn't just human, she wasn't just a girl, she was proof. Proof that Earth's darkest secret had survived. "Rhea," he said, pacing the ship's deck. "Show me everything they've tried to hide." The AI displayed hundreds of corrupted files hidden under false trade codes, medical exports, and cargo shipments. But Jox knew what to look for now. The name X93 appeared again and again. A ghost hidden in data. Sold, transferred, tested, drugged, erased. Why would they mark her as pleasure if she was designed for war? He asked aloud. The AI replied calmly. "Psychological control through trauma is faster than programming." Jox clenched his jaw. They broke her on purpose. The screen zoomed in on a location, an old medical station near the outer docks. It was no longer active, but the logs showed one last shipment, Lysa. She had been kept there for weeks before the auction. Treated, injected, tortured, and now? Maybe it held answers. Jox didn't wait. He geared up again, heart-burning, colder than before. But this time, he wasn't going alone. Meanwhile, deep inside the ship, Lysa sat alone in the medroom. Her hands trembled as she traced the edge of her collar. It was off now. Jox had removed it, but her neck still felt its weight. She stared at the mirror, not to see her face, but to watch what she might become. Her pupils changed shape sometimes. Her skin glowed slightly in the dark. And inside her chest, she could feel something. "Artificial," she whispered to herself. "What did they turn me into?" She closed her eyes and saw flashes, metal rooms, doctors in white. A voice saying, "Make her forget." Then silence. Now that silence was breaking. And something inside her was waking up. * back at the abandoned medical station. Jox stood in the dark hallway. It smelled like chemicals and rust. He held a plasma cutter in one hand and a scanner in the other. Thermal readings ahead. "Rhea," whispered to lifeforms not human. Jox crept forward, turned a corner, and saw them, 2 guards, insect-like, with long arms and thin armor. He tossed a smoke flare down the hall and fired twice. Both fell before they could scream. Inside the lab, he found what he was looking for. A cryo-storage unit labeled Human Hybrid Series X. Each file was marked with a red dead stamp, except one, X93 Lysa. He inserted a decrypt chip and downloaded the full file. Her blood was mixed with alien DNA from a species long banned in the central systems. Her mind had been wiped several times. She was stronger than she looked, faster, smarter, and dangerous. A line in bold red read, "Do not allow emotional bonding, subject, unstable." Jox whispered to himself. Too late for that. Suddenly, a warning sounded in his earpiece. "Ship breach detected." His heart dropped. "Lysa," he said. Turning and running. Back on the Stariner, alarms blared. A cloaked drone had attached to the hull, sending out a pulse. Lysa stood in the main bay, staring at the metal doors as they began to open. A figure stepped inside, not a soldier, not a man, something between. It wore a black mask and spoke without moving its mouth. "Asset X93, you are recalled." Lysa stepped back. "I'm not yours," she said softly. The figure raised its hand and fired a sonic blast. She hit the wall hard, but stood again, slower this time. Then something inside her snapped. Her eyes lit up, bright like fire. Her body moved without thought, faster than light. She struck the figure before it could aim again, then again, and again. Jox arrived just as she broke the thing's mask in. Its face beneath was not human, not alien, something built. She turned toward Jox, breathing heavy, eyes glowing. He froze for a second, then stepped forward slowly. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded once. "They're coming," she whispered. "More of them?" Jox looked at the damage, the broken enemy, the melted armor. "You remembered how to fight." Lysa looked down at her hands. "I didn't remember," she said. "I just stopped holding back." They stood there for a moment in silence. Then Jox said the only thing he could. "We need to move, now." They watched her through black lenses. They didn't blink. They didn't speak. They only observed. "Subject X-93 has awakened." The first voice crackled through a cold channel. "She is unstable," another replied. "Unstable?" repeated a third. Then silence. They stood in a dark room, somewhere beyond the stars. Tall figures with no names, no hearts, no past, no future. Only one mission: bring her back or burn. Her out, far away, inside the Stariner. Lysa stared at her hands. Smoke curled from her skin, but she felt no pain. Jox sat near her, breathing hard. "Checking the ship's controls, you tore that drone apart," he said, trying to sound calm. "I didn't know I could." She answered softly. Rhea's voice cut in. "Warning, 2 vessels approaching at high velocity." Jox's eyes narrowed. "They found us." Lysa didn't ask how. She already knew. "They're linked to me," she said. "Part of me still listens to them." Jox stood, his voice firm now. "Then we cut the connection." The ship jerked as the first enemy vessel fired. Shields flared blue. Sparks flew across the dashboard. Jox grabbed the controls. "Hold on," he shouted. They dove into a nearby asteroid field. Sharp rocks spinning like blades. The enemy ships followed, faster, deadlier. But the Stariner was lighter, and Jox knew how to fly like a ghost. In the back of the ship, Lysa closed her eyes. A high-pitched noise was growing in her ears. She saw images again. White rooms, needles, orders in a language she never learned. She fell to her knees. "I can feel them," she whispered. "They're calling me back." Jox heard her through the comm. "Don't listen," he said. Dodging another laser blast, "You're not theirs anymore." The enemy ships locked weapons. Targeting the core of Jox's vessel, one blast. And everything would end. Jox made a sharp turn, the ship grinding against rock. "Then he had an idea, Rhea," he said. "Open the emergency hatch." "Which one?" "The one with the old mining gear. You plan to eject debris?" "No," Jox grinned. "I plan to blind them." He flipped the switch, and a dozen containers exploded from the side of the ship. Old metal, dirt, and scrap flew into space. One enemy ship crashed into the junk, its shields blinking. Jox spun the ship around and fired. It exploded in silence, flames spinning like stars. But the second ship didn't slow. It fired again, and this time it hit. The Stariner shook, lights flickering, warning alarms screaming. "We can't take another hit," Rhea warned. Jox looked back. "Lysa, I need you." She didn't answer. Her body was trembling. The voice in her mind was louder now. "Come home," it said. "Obey. Submit." Her eyes snapped open. "No," she whispered. "I won't." She stood up slowly, walked to the center of the ship, placed her hand on the wall, and closed her eyes again. The lights flickered, then pulsed with her heartbeat. Rhea's voice changed. Energy spike detected. Source unknown. Jox stared at her. "What are you doing?" "I'm taking control," Lysa said. Her veins glowed softly, the ship answering her touch. The engines flared, brighter than before. They moved like lightning, shooting between asteroids. Faster than the enemy could follow, the last ship turned sharply, trying to track them. Lysa opened her eyes, now burning gold. She raised her hand and whispered, "Sleep." The enemy ship's systems glitched, its engines cut, it spun out of control and slammed into a massive asteroid. Gone in a blink, silence returned. No alarms. No voices, just the sound of the Starriner's steady hum. Jox turned around, staring at her like she was something from legend. "How did you do that?" he asked. Lysa shook her head. "I don't know," she said, "but I think I was made to fly." Later in the quiet of the cabin, Jox sat across from her. He placed a small device on the table, the file he had stolen from the lab. He pushed it toward her. "This is everything they wrote about you." She didn't reach for it. Instead, she looked at him and asked, "Will reading it make me real?" "You were always real," Jox replied. "They just didn't want you to." "No." She looked out the window, stars shining in the black. "Where do we go now?" she asked. Jox leaned back and smiled for the first time in days. "Anywhere they can't follow." She stood in a white room. No doors, no windows, just endless white. She was barefoot, wearing the same torn clothes, but there was no pain. No weight on her chest. In front of her stood a girl. Same face, same eyes, but her hair was neat. Her clothes were clean, and her voice was calm. "You're not broken," the other Lysa said. "You're unfinished." Lysa blinked. "Who are you?" she asked. "I'm the version they wanted." The other replied, "Perfect, obedient, silent." Lysa stepped back. "I'm not like you, no?" The other Lysa said, smiling sadly. "You're the mistake that survived." She woke with a jolt, gasping. The Starriner was quiet now, drifting in deep space. Jox sat across from her. "Watching closely, you were talking in your sleep," he said. Lysa wiped sweat from her forehead. "I saw her again," she whispered. "My other self." Jox handed her a cup of water. She took it with shaking hands. "You said you remember pieces," he said, "but not everything." Lysa nodded. "Most memories feel like they were recorded, not lived, like someone else's dream." Jox opened the stolen file again, scrolling past lines of corrupted data. Finally, he stopped at a section marked Core Identity Mapping. He read slowly. She was built using neural code from Earthborn. Humans, layered with alien cognition structures. Emotion controls were limited to allow ... adaptation. He looked up at her. "They built your brain like a patchwork hiboski, part real, part programmed." Lysa didn't react. She had suspected this for days. "What's the part that makes me me?" she asked. Jox didn't answer. Later, Jox explored the outer cargo bay. While checking the crates, he found something strange. A sealed panel on the wall, one that didn't match his ship's design. He pried it open and found a black device glowing red. A tracker, but not his. He cursed under his breath. They had been watched this whole time. Not through signals, through her. In the medbay, Lysa stared at her reflection again. But this time, she wasn't afraid. She leaned closer and touched her skin. Then her hand moved lower to her ribcage, and she felt it, something hard. Something cold under her flesh. She took a knife from the counter and held it tight. Then pressed the tip gently into her side. Pain came fast, but her breath stayed steady. She cut just deep enough to see it. A small, blinking chip buried beneath her skin, still active. "I'm still theirs," she whispered. Jox ran in a second. Later, he saw the blood, the knife, the chip on the floor. "What did you do?" he shouted. She looked up, her voice calm. "I stopped being their weapon, but it was too late." The enemy had traced them. Not just one ship, an entire fleet. Black and red vessels coming from every angle. "Time to intercept, 5 minutes," Rhea announced. Jox jumped into the pilot's seat. "We can't outrun that many." Lysa stood beside him. "I'm not running anymore." Jox looked at her. What does that mean? She stared at the screen, her golden eyes shining. It means I have to wake up inside her mind. The white room returned, but this time there were cracks in the walls. The other Lysa stood there, calm as ever. Are you ready? She asked. Lysa nodded. Delete yourself, she said. The other smiled, then vanished into dust. A surge of light filled her chest. She opened her eyes in the real world. Every screen in the ship flickered. Every system trembled. Jox stepped back as the controls glowed with her touch. She's sinking. With the ship again, Rhea said. But it's different this time. Lysa walked to the center console. I'm going to speak to them, she said. To the fleet, she reached into the main comlink. And for a moment, everything went still. Then her voice echoed through every enemy ship. This is Subject X-93. She said, I reject your command. I reject your orders. I am not yours, one by one. Enemy ships began to lose control. Their AI scrambled, systems crashing, some turned away, others fell silent. Jox stared in disbelief. You're rewriting their code? She nodded. I am the code. Only one ship remained, the flagship, and from it, a single message came through. Cold, sharp, final. Return now, or Earth dies. Lysa's heart froze. She turned to Jox. They know where I'm going. Jox didn't hesitate. Then, we get there first. Asterisk, the ship touched down quietly. No explosions, no defense cannons, no soldiers waiting with guns, just silence. Earth looked the same. Blue sky, green fields, empty cities. But something was off. Too clean, too still. Like the world had paused its breath. Jox stepped out first, his boots pressing into soft soil. The wind moved through dead grass. He looked around and saw no animals, no humans, no life, only buildings that stood like forgotten memories. Lysa followed behind him. Her eyes scanned the trees, the roads, the skies. This isn't home, she whispered. It looks like Earth, but it doesn't feel like it. The Stariner's engines powered down, and Rhea's voice came through the comm. No life signs in a 10-mile radius. Jox narrowed his eyes. Then who sent the message? They walked into the city, a place once known as New Geneva, a safe zone after the border wars. But now it looked abandoned. No people, no cars, no noise. Only screens still glowing with static, and banners hanging with the Earth Alliance logo. Torn by time, Lysa stepped in front of a window and looked at her reflection. It flickered, then changed. Her face on the glass smiled without her. A voice echoed from the speaker above. Welcome home, Project X-93. You have arrived on schedule. Jox pulled his blaster. Trap, he muttered. Lysa didn't move. I think it's worse than that, she said. I think this was always the plan. A hidden door opened near the center of the plaza. A man stepped out, wearing a white coat, hands raised in peace. He looked human. Middle-aged, calm eyes, but something behind them was broken. Lysa, he said, smiling gently, you made it back. She stared at him like a ghost had just spoken. You know me, she said. I designed you. He replied. Jox raised his weapon. You want to explain why Earth looks like a graveyard? The man didn't blink, because she was never meant to leave. They followed him inside the underground lab, cold walls, white lights, blinking monitors. Lysa walked slower now, each step heavier. Her memories returned in small flashes. Tests, pain, voices telling her to obey. You were the first success, the man explained. But they feared what you might become. They. Jox asked, the Earth command. He said, they sealed Earth, shut down the program, and left us in the dark. Lysa touched one of the tanks lining the hallway. Inside was another girl like her, sleeping in a green light. Then another tank and another, hundreds of them, "She's me," Lysa whispered. "They all are." The man led them to the final chamber. One screen showed a blinking map of the stars. Another showed her brain pattern in real time. The last showed Earth's current population count near zero. "We didn't destroy the world," he said softly. "We just paused it." Jox frowned. "What does that even mean?" "We placed the planet in low-activity stasis," he explained, "to protect it from her." He looked at Lysa, "The original version of you." Lysa stepped back. "You mean?" "I'm a copy." "Not just a copy," he said. "You're the override key." Alarms suddenly blared. Ria's voice came through the comm. "Multiple ships entering Earth's orbit, hostile signatures." Jox pulled Lysa behind him. "They followed us." "No," the man said. "They followed her." The ceiling opened, and a hologram appeared. A girl with Lysa's face, but darker eyes and a sharper voice. "I see you woke her up," she said. "Now she'll do what I couldn't." Jox aimed at the image. "Who are you?" "I'm the original Lysa," the voice said. "The one they erased." The hologram leaned in closer. "And I'm here to finish what I started." Lysa stepped forward. "I won't help you," she said. "You don't have a choice." The voice replied, "You were built to open the system." The map on the wall blinked red. Earth's defense grid powered on, and ancient weapons hidden beneath the soil began to rise. One command could wipe out entire cities or entire fleets. Jox turned to Lysa. "What do you want to do?" She closed her eyes, then opened them, steady, glowing, clear. "I want to set them free," she said. "All of them." The sky over Earth turned red. Satellites spun out of sync. Defensive towers rose from under oceans and deserts. Each pointed to the stars, each waiting for one signal, one voice. One final command. People, hidden deep underground, held their breath. Civilians, rebels, former soldiers, all watching the same screen. A single line blinked, awaiting override. Code X93. 1 hour earlier, Lysa stood between two worlds behind her Jox. The only person who ever treated her like a real human. In front of her, a flickering hologram of herself, smiling coldly. The original Lysa, the prototype, the forgotten. "Weapon. Join me," the hologram said. "Or watch this world burn." Jox stepped forward. "You're not real," he said. "You're just code wrapped in a face." The original Lysa tilted her head. "I'm what she was always meant to become. She's just late." Lysa's voice shook. "I'm not your copy. You're mine." The room trembled as energy surged through the base. Earth's orbital defense network synced with the hidden lab. Each weapon aligned to destroy the fleet approaching, or to destroy Earth itself. Jox looked at the glowing interface. "If you press that," he said, "millions could die." Lysa didn't move. She closed her eyes and saw everything. The pain, the cages, the auction, the dream in white. The face of the girl she used to be. "You were made to survive." The original said, "I was made to control." "No," Lysa replied. "You were made to be used. I was made to stop that." In the command chamber, the countdown started. 30 seconds, 29, 28, Jox whispered. "You don't have to be what they made you. You can choose." The original Lysa laughed. "There is no choice. Only programming." But Lysa wasn't listening anymore. She walked to the center of the chamber, laid her hands on the console, and reached inward, into herself. Inside her mind, the white room returned, but it was cracked now, falling apart. The girl in white stood in the center, not the original, not the enemy, but the scared version of her, the one they tried to erase. Lysa walked to her. "I'm sorry I forgot you," she said. Then she reached out and held her. They merged into one, the fear, the pain, the rage, the love, all of it. Outside, the sky began to glow. Ships from the old regime, bounty hunters, and corrupted AI fleets circled Earth like vultures, waiting. Then the weapons powered down. Every tower shut itself off. Every ship in orbit paused, confused. Then, one by one, they lost power. Like a wave of silence moved across space. Their targeting systems melted. Their control networks erased. Not by a virus, not by a code, but by a choice. Back in the chamber, the hologram of the original Lysa flickered. Her face twisted, glitching. "You deleted me," she said, voice cracking. "No," Lysa whispered. "I forgave you." The image vanished, and for the first time in her life, Lysa felt quiet inside. Jox walked to her slowly. The screen above now read, "System reset, peace mode, active." He smiled. "You did it?" Lysa looked up at him. "I didn't." "Save the world," she said. "I just stopped being their weapon." He nodded, and that saved the world. Weeks passed. Earth began to wake. People returned to the surface. The skies were blue again, and Lysa stood beside Jox at the edge of a cliff. Watching the sunrise, she still had power inside her. Still more than human. But now, she finally felt human. Jox handed her a small device. The last copy of her old file, she looked at it, then tossed it off the cliff, letting the wind take it away. He asked, "What now?" Lysa smiled. "We find others like me. We help them choose. Not what they were made to be, but what they want to be." Jox nodded. "Sounds like a new beginning." She looked at the horizon. A world finally free, and whispered, "It is."